Welcome. I am so pleased that you're here. I'm going to be talking about how to stand out as a transformational coach in a crowded market. And I am very passionate about this because one, I love coaches. I am a coach and I've been there. And I know that it can be really hard to stand out because it can feel like the coaching space is really saturated. So really quick about me. I've had a lot of training in neuroscience-based transformational coaching, lots of energetic type training as well, and a little bit about my story and why I put all this together. When I first discovered neuroscience, I was in a place in my business. At the time, I was health coaching, and I was in a place where I was really struggling to get anywhere. I knew that I had to work on myself. I had already been in counseling. I had already been to multiple seminars and different mindset type things, affirmations, doing all these different things, but they weren't really getting to the core of what was in here and what was I felt like was really holding me back. And so I ended up meeting with a new friend I met in networking, and she was telling me about a training she was going through, and it was neuroscience based also. I had already had some. I had been doing this for a really long time, and hers went a lot deeper. And so I met with her, and literally we shifted beliefs that I had in a day. I had grew up in a home where my dad was verbally abusive, so I had a lot of negative self-talk going on. I always felt like I had a glass ceiling here when it came to business, and I also really kept people at arm's length in relationships. So I was really not who I wanted to be in business or in just as a person. And when she took me through that process, I was like, wow, it was so mind-blowing that I went on to get more certifications in that. And at the end of that, I have to tell you, I did get frustrated because the most transformational part of it, they waited till the end, and I knew I needed it right at the beginning. So that frustrated me, and a lot of it seemed hard and complicated and hard to understand. And what I did is I went out and found more training, and I was able to put it all together in a really simple way so that my clients were getting the most profound results faster. And there's a couple of key things that I had found that made a big difference in the process. So now on to what we're talking about today. So blending in, and I've been there. When I started my business, there weren't as many coaches then. I will say that. There was a lot of coaches that came up out of 2020, 2021. I've been coaching for quite a while, and there were quite a few that rose up in that. But even then, it felt like everybody was talking about the same thing. Felt like similar services. And this is not coming from a scarcity point, is there's enough people in the world that need transformation, but this was how I was feeling. And if you're feeling that way, it's going to impact your audience. It's going to impact how they see you. Oh, I just had a thought. Am I recording? Let me look. I believe I am. Anyway, it's going to impact how they see you. Another piece of that, and I know this was true for me, is I really lacked clarity on what it was that was valuable about me and my process and what I do for people. I think part of it, I think that's even worse now too, because of social media, because you scroll for 5 or 10 minutes and you look at their coaches and see what they're offering. Oh, well, I do that too. I do a lot of things, but you don't need to talk about all of them. And it makes it hard to attract higher paying clients when you feel like you're blending in and when you feel like you're not clear, when you're all over the place with what you're doing and what you're offering. Oops, wrong direction. There we go. So when you can offer a process to people, actually it's the result. When you can offer a result to people quickly, it gets noticed. And I know this from my own experience because I'm going to go back a little bit and let me go back here. I want to tell you a story because when I first started doing this deeper transformational work, I already told you I was a health coach first. And what happened was I was noticing in health coaching that a lot of my clients who had the deepest issues also had past trauma. And so that kind of got me starting to move into mindset more. Also, I was working on myself at the time. And so when I officially transitioned into at the time I called myself a mindset coach, it all works together, heart, mind, soul, just to be clear. But when I transitioned over to that, at the time, I was doing things like everybody else. I had a process where this month we do this, and second month we do this, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I had stages and steps through my process. But what I was finding was my clients, once we got to the deep work, which wasn't until like month 3, 4, everything sped up. Everything got faster, better for them. And it was like a night and day difference. I didn't feel like I was pulling them along. I didn't have to worry about whether or not they were doing the work that they needed to do. In fact, they didn't even have to because the changes happened so quickly and naturally. And after that deeper session, they were excited and telling other people. So that's why I ended up moving the way I just rearranged my packages to bringing this bigger transformation up to the forefront and doing it first after really having the knowledge about neuroscience, how the brain works, and how to get there faster so that I could back up those results and do it safely and soundly for the client. So I want to talk about that a little bit because there is a myth, and the myth is that slow, gradual transformation is necessary in order for the client to feel safe, for them to feel safe in their body. And in most cases, I would say that's true. When you're using neuroscience with it, it is not true because the whole reason that someone wants to hang on to a behavior or doesn't change is, one, they don't believe it's possible, and two, there is a higher purpose behind it. There's a reason why they're hanging on to it. And when you can get to that and dissolve that resistance that they have right up front, then transformation happens really fast and quickly. Because in traditional coaching, and this is what I used to do, it took several months to get them even comfortable to be able to begin to dive deep. And when you are combining neuroscience techniques with your own processes, it doesn't have to take that long anymore. One of the things, I'm actually going to take you through all my steps in a moment. But one of the things that you have to understand is the way the brain works and what people are dealing with. They're doing these behaviors because it served them in some way in the past. It kept them safe. It helped them. Only now it doesn't. And the brain takes that because it wants to do what's easy, it wants to do what's safe, it wants to do what what it feels is the fastest route to stay safe and keep you out of harm's way. It'll hang on to that pattern and it will do it every time. And it'll end up showing up in all kinds of ways in their relationships, in their business, in their how they interact, the decisions they make, all of it. So it's really important to find the root causes and help them get activated into a new type of energy, a new type of being really quickly and easily. So I said I was going to share my steps. Here they are. One of the things that I teach for the coaches who are going through my certification program, these are the steps that I teach. Of course, it's not all of it, but it's the main things. This is the client journey. We identify what is the root behavior, what's the root, where did it first occur. That is huge. And it may have been something from their childhood. It could have been something from a past life. It could be something that's generational. We let the client guide us, so we don't take anyone anywhere that they're not willing to go. And it's really important to get to that root. Once you get to the root, it makes everything else going forward really easy. And I've got a very specific, simple way in order to help my coaches get to that and get to it quickly. Next, we help them overcome the subconscious resistance that everyone has. And I don't know that we ever get over this completely. Otherwise, we would have no fear whatsoever. And it might be dangerous. And what we do in this is we show the subconscious that there is another possibility and that it is safe. Two things. When you do that, when the subconscious mind feels safe and knows that there's a different possibility that would be better for them, it is willing to change fast. That's the way it works. So we tackle that right away and actually have several ways of overcoming that throughout the 4-hour process. And then we subconsciously shift it, which is, long story short version, it's like a reframing of the past where they can leave it all behind them and then the problem doesn't happen anymore. It literally changes neural pathways in an instant. It can be in an instant. Some of it can take over time. Usually it's a combination of both, but a lot of times it's instantaneous. And then we help them walk them through what a new behavior would look like and how to get into immediate action and results. So I want to shift to understanding your unique value and whatever your process is. Your process may not be my process, which is fine, but you have to be able to identify and articulate what your strengths are. What is it? What's the transformation that you are bringing into the world? What is it doing for your client? Most importantly, what is it that they want? People don't buy processes. They don't buy certifications. They don't buy the thing. They buy the outcome. They want to know where you're taking them. That is so, so important. Another piece of it that I learned is, because a lot of people already do that, they talk about the outcome. Another piece of it that gives you a great edge is if you can do it fast, or if you can do it in a different way than everybody else is. For me, I learned this from a coach, a business coach. Early on when I started just doing the mindset coaching piece of it, and I had left behind health coaching and officially drew the line in the sand that this was what I was going to do. I had a lot of clients already. I wasn't making that much. I was probably making, gosh, maybe 3 to 4,000 a month. And some months were high. It was a lot of up and down stuff. Some months were higher. Some were as high as 7 or 8, and then it would dip back down to $2, $3, $4,000. What I found, or what she taught me, was we took a look at all the clients that I had worked with, and she looked at this thing that I was doing that was basically like a VIP day at the time, and asked me about what are the specific results that you're getting from this. And when I told her, that's when she was like, had suggested, we need to move this to the forefront and it needs to be your main offer. And so when I started walking into, at the time, networking meetings, and I could openly say and ethically say, because I had results from it, I can get you results in 4 hours or less. And I just helped a person go from zero business to $1 million in less than a year. People listen to that. And I am going to talk about how to market that towards the end or as we go through this. But I wanted you to hear that story because before then, I was probably looking like everybody else. And then I made that shift to bring the transformation up to the forefront and made a really bold statement that I could back up. I knew I could back it up. I had already done it multiple times, and every single client, I was going back and asking, like, how is there, I just happened to be working with a lot of business owners. I'm like, how is business after we worked together, even though we worked on other stuff? That was something quantifiable. Doesn't have to be, but that's the direction I was going. And it really help me stand out. So if you want to stand out, you want to build your brand around fast results if possible, or something else that makes you stand out. This is what attracts higher paying clients. They're busy. They're busy, and they are probably already having some form of success in life with relationships. Maybe they got into a sticky spot with a relationship or something at work, or something is going on, or maybe they're just super stressed out because they're doing all the things. They're busy and they're willing to pay more, not for your time, but for the transformation. That was my biggest lesson. They're more willing to pay for, they'll pay big money for the transformation. If you say you can get it done in 3 weeks or 4 hours, versus 6 months, they're going to pay for that. This is not a time, you're not on a time clock as a coach. You are very valuable, and people will pay for value more than the time. The time thing is us. We get it all wrapped up in our own worth and our own value about, I need to give more. If I'm going to charge this amount of money, I better give more time. And it doesn't work that way with higher paying clients. They want efficiency. They want things to be fast. In fact, excuse me, most of my clients, I will say up front, if we're working together longer, past the 4 hours, because sometimes we work on other things, and I will let them know that my sessions are up to an hour. Sometimes they're only 20 or 30 minutes because I'm using neuroscience, we get to it so fast. We get to it fast and we shift it quickly, and then they can get their time back, move on, which is really ultimately what everybody wants. And when you do this, when you have this method, it really helps attract more clients, and they become raving fans, and I have clients who refer others all the time. They're connecting me. I've never really had to message hard. I do work. I do things that bring in business, but it does come easier for me because of the results that I get for people. And now I want to talk a little bit about using testimonials in your marketing, because this is also something I learned early on that's really served me. And I know that not everyone does it. And that is, I get those testimonials really quickly. Typically, after a 4-hour session, I will message a client, ask them how they're doing, how they're feeling. And these are the kinds of stuff that you see on this screen. These are the kinds of things that I get immediately. And I'll ask them, I screenshot it and I'll ask them if I can use this. It's so valuable. I don't want to go through these. This one was this very first one on here. I tell everyone who will listen about you. That was an unsolicited comment on a Facebook post. She just saw it and went in and she did a 4-hour session with me. Let's see, this second one in the middle, these are her numbers. About 60 days in, I had asked her, because she came to me about her business and she wanted to grow her business, but wasn't. She felt stuck in it. And what was happening when we got to remember those steps, found out that the deeper reason behind it was trust. And it went back to something that happened a long time ago that she thought she had worked through because she had been in counseling. And she did one 4-hour session. And literally, she texted me later that day saying, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all kinds of opportunities, stuff that was here the whole time, and I didn't see it before. And within 60 days, she had increased. These are her numbers after it was a little over 60 days. It was under 90, but over 60. I don't remember exactly. But it was a huge increase in her business. And her relationships got better, all kinds of things on the other side of that too. So if people start talking, this last one, this person had come to me and that's when I was still in-person networking, and she told everybody, and they knew because it was a small group, they knew how much I charged, they knew I wasn't cheap. And she said, I think she even says it's worth every penny. So having people say things like that about you really helps build credibility and helps build up the referrals. So now I want to give you some actionable steps to start standing out for you right away. The most important thing you can do is take a look at what your current offers are and pay attention to the clients that you've already worked with. And is there something there? Is there something there where you could bring the transformation up front? Is there some way that you can market and bring that in as your expertise and your thing? And look at that. It's important to be consistent. So important to be consistent. The same business coach I told you that helped me turn all this around several years ago also told me that you're going to be talking about it over and over and over again to the point that you're sick of it. But the people who are reading your posts, the people who are looking at your newsletters and your website, they're not going to be sick of it because they need the repetition. Before COVID, this is just an interesting fact. Before COVID, they said it would take about 7 exposures for someone to buy from you. Now that we're through COVID, there is so much mistrust in our world that it takes 50. And that was an article published, I want to say Success Magazine, but don't quote me on that. But 50, from 7 to 50, because of all the things that we've gone through a lot. our world has gone through a lot in the last several years, and there is an energy of mistrust out there. So it's important to stay consistent because it builds trust. And so your message is consistent, your message is on point, and people are clear of what you do and what transformation it is that you're doing for them. And if it appeals to you, how long that's going to take. Is it going to be fast, or is it going to be over 6 months? Is it going to be over 12 months? What does that look like? They're going to want to know that. So if this is pinging for you, if you're curious at all, I'd love to dive deeper with you. We can hop on a call and take a look at your business. And I'd love to share my certification program. It is an 8-week program. I certify coaches on my 4-hour rapid results process and take them through teaching them all the steps, how to overcome the subconscious resistance, how to get to that root problem, how to shift it, all the things. And it's laid out very easily. One of my core values is simplifying things and making them as easy and simple as possible for anybody to be able to, not anybody, but for most people to understand and implement. And that's what we do. And then I have a support for them going forward for the next 12 months where I support them on their business and make sure that within the next few weeks of finishing the certification, they're clear on their packages, what they're offering, and they're on their way. And then we have a monthly support to help them with business things. If that interests you at all, reach out to me. Just send me a message and be glad to have a conversation. My next cohort only has 2 spots left, and I'm running these fairly regularly. So that is all I have. I would love to hear. If you have any questions, you can message me, or when I post this, if you're listening to the recording, you can put it down in the comments or message me directly. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.